another Football Guys TV. I'm your host, Cecil Lammey. Let's take a look at the latest news from around the NFL. First, we're going to start with our Stardom segment. Yeah, Philip Rivers is fired up. He's going to New Orleans to play his mentor, Drew Brees. Of course, the former teammates now duke it out on Sunday. You're going to put Philip Rivers in your lineup. This is your number one quarterback. Yes, I know he lost Vincent Jackson, but Gates seems to be getting healthier. Maybe Robert Meacham can do something, and he'll force feed the ball to Gates and Malcolm Floyd. Make sure Rivers is in your lineup against a weak Saints defense. We'll move on and talk next about the next Adrian Peterson. And listen, people, he's here. Trent Richardson is a guy that's a set it and forget it RB2 for your fantasy squad every week, regardless of the matchup. We've seen this guy on a bad Browns team put up 100 all-purpose yards, 100 rushing yards, and score touchdowns, even if the matchup is tough. Make sure Trent Richardson is in your lineup, even though the Browns are going up against the Giants. And finally, we're going to talk about Brian Hartline. Yeah, Mr. 253 receiving yards. We all saw that, right, Rob? We did, but you just got to start Brian Hartline. And here's the thing. Ryan Tannehill is looking like an amazing rookie quarterback, very calm, very sure of himself in the pocket, and he and Brian Hartline are certainly on the same page. Make sure Hartline is in your lineup at least as a flex play this week. Now we get to the sit-em portion of our show, and these guys have had some production this last week, but you got to sit them on the bench in week 5. Ryan Fitzpatrick with the Buffalo Bills leads the NFL in touchdown passes, but this week isn't going to do much against a fired-up 49ers defense. Plus, as we've seen with Fitzpatrick, he's got more turnovers since the start of last season than Mark Sanchez. That tells you everything you need to know. Make sure he's on your bench. Next up is Chris Johnson. I know, 100 yards. Who would have guessed? Against a tough Texans D last week. But this week against Minnesota, don't expect the same type of success. In fact, Johnson's stat line from the last game against Houston should be more like 16 for 81. The Texans called off the dogs and some garbage time rush yards, got Chris Johnson over the century mark. Sell him high if you can, and don't start him this week against Chad Greenway and that fired-up Vikings team. And finally, Stephon Smith. Carolina Panthers got a tough one this week, a tough defense they're facing in Seattle. Earl Thomas, that entire secondary, Cam Chancellor, I love all those guys. Steve Smith, who doesn't look quite the same like he did last year, is going to struggle against the Seahawks. Make sure he's on your bench. From the GoMileHigh.com studios, that's a wrap for this week's edition of Football Guys TV. Hey, I want to remind you to check out Footballguys.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter every morning right to your inbox. The latest news and notes from around the National Football League with comments and opinions from Footballguys.com. For my man, Rob Wagner, man in the box, get back in that box right over there. I'm Cecil Lammey saying thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.